Hi everybody, welcome back to the homestead. It's July 1st and it's starting to get overcast, but it was in the 90s today, at least according to my thermometer. So today's blog is pretty aptly titled. I've had a few people comment on my Facebook page about a post that I put on Craigslist, and I've already discussed this once, but I thought I would go over what I feel are the best traits of a homesteader. The 5 most important personality traits of a homesteader. The reason that I feel these are the most important are because I've done a lot of thinking about the people that I've met that are homesteaders, and a lot of the people that I've watched on YouTube, at least the channels that I subscribe to and agree with, and everybody has their own opinion about everything. So if you are not the type of homesteader that I am, or people that I follow, or homesteaders that I've met, it's okay. We all have our own opinions, and if this makes you not want to be part of my channel and follow me, that's okay too, because everyone has a different way of doing things. So but to me, in my opinion, these are the 5 most important. Number 1, and I'm going to read a little bit because sometimes it's hard to remember everything that I want to say. Number 1 is patience. So homesteading is a journey. It's not a race. You're not trying to get to a finish line. There is no finish line. And if you're not patient, when something goes wrong on the homestead, and you just feel like, oh, I'm just going to give up, I warned you. You got to have patience. Things take time. Every time you think you have something completely planned out, you have prepared, you have everything ready to go, or in the process of being ready to go, something happens and you have to change your plans. That happened with us with our bathroom. We added on to the apartment. We have the shell of the structure ready to go. We have plumbing stuff done, but it turns out we can't do it. So we made a new plan, and we're going to put a detached bathroom. It's basically going to be a shed-like structure that will be a full bathroom and laundry facility. But it won't be attached to where we live because we just can't do it. The septic doesn't permit for being pumped up to. So town regulations. So we have to change our plans. That could have really been something that, it was kind of upsetting and a little depressing, and it was our own fault for not doing things the way we should have done them to begin with. So, that's okay. The room is there. It's going to be used for other things. That's just the way it is. But without patience and the ability to roll with things and change when you need to, then you can't be a homesteader. Eventually things work out. Yeah, that's basically the bottom line of having patience, is eventually you wait long enough, or you change your plans, you figure things out, and then everything's okay. I don't know if you can see the chickens back there. I let the littles out to forage while I'm outside. Free range time. So number 2 is passion. That's a big deal. To be a homesteader, to be a wife, running a farm, you need passion to be able to sympathize and have pity and concern for the suffering and misfortune of others, including yourself. Sometimes you're going to get sick and you're going to not be able to get things done. Sometimes you have to deal with the treatment of your animals, especially when you're slaughtering or butchering them. If you're not compassionate about that animal and its life and the way it lives and thrives, hopefully, it's going to come back to you in the end with, maybe the meat won't taste good because it suffered at some point in its life and you didn't try to fix it or help it. The same thing goes for your family. You have to have compassion for them. Sometimes, they can't deal with something and you have to do it yourself. And my instance, it's going to be slaughtering my chickens when it's time. My husband doesn't want to do it. He can't. He feels compassion for them in a way that he can't do that one deed. So I have to be the one to actually do the deed of killing the chicken. And I'm okay with that because I know how I've raised them. I know the compassion that I've shown them through their life. I know when they're hurt, I separate them and I take care of them. I want them to have the best life, My motto is one bad day. So without that compassion for yourself, for others, for your animals, homesteading would be very difficult. Yeah, it would. And you have to be able to care for yourself when you're sick or tired or worn out. And without compassion for yourself and knowing your limitations, homesteading is a really difficult thing to do. And not knowing that or being that way yourself, compassion goes a long way. Number 3, empathy. Okay, so I'm going to read this. The definition of empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. So I know it sounds similar to compassion, but it's a little different. When I was little, I was very aware of people's sadness and pain, and I was very empathic towards them. It was difficult for me to see people suffering. I would physically feel their suffering. And all through high school, I dealt with depression and anxiety and stress over other people's pain I was feeling, family situations. It was really hard for me. Or suffering of animals, people who are being bullied. I was bullied. So I was a very empathic person, and in high school, I didn't thrive because, there were cliques and people were very mean and cruel. And as an emotional, feeling person who was very empathic and cared deeply about other people and their pain, I had a very difficult time in high school. I spent a lot of time at home, depressed or with migraines. I mean, that was one of the ways my empathy manifested itself in me. So, as hard as it was, I did eventually learn to deal with it, and control my empathic nature. I feel like I'm a better person for being empathic because, even though it's really difficult to deal with things, and even as an adult now, what we deal with now are major disasters like 9/11 or Katrina or Sandy Hook or Superstorm Sandy, or this recent one, the nightclub massacre, which I cried all day. I watched the news for maybe a couple of hours that morning, and every time I heard anything about it, I just started bawling. I didn't know any of these people. I was nowhere near it, but I felt like the worst part was listening to the families come on TV and talk about, not being able to get in touch with their children or their lovers or whatever. And I couldn't deal. I mean, I can put myself in their place. I felt it tremendously. Sorry, there was a car. So, all right. The reason I mention these events is that in farm life, as well as in life, and in your community, and the town that you live in, and as a citizen of this country, we're constantly bombarded by the media. Constantly. And whether or not you believe anything you hear on TV or the radio or even from your neighbor or me on YouTube, you have to feel empathy for the loss that people are suffering. You have to sympathize and care enough to somehow manifest in your own life the ability to create peace and not perpetuate the fear and the hatred that's going on around you, because all of these events, whether they're man-made or even natural, cause things to happen to us, and they cause emotions and feelings. And if you can't deal with them, if you can't empathize with the suffering of other people, how are you going to take care of yourself and your family and your animals? I could never see an animal stay in pain. I would have to have enough empathy to put them down if that's what needed to happen. And you just can't let them suffer. And the same thing goes for your dog or your cat. And I know a lot of people will probably not like to hear this, but your family members as well. And there could come a day when we are not in such a good place in this country or this world, and we may have to take matters into our own hands. And as hard as that is, it's a kind of empathy that you're showing for someone, and compassion, because if they're in so much pain and suffering so horribly, what do you do? Do you just let them? Do you just say, "Oh, well, I could never do that because I love you and I don't, yeah, I love my husband, I love my dog, I love my cat." The last cat that my husband's cat, we had to put down 3 years ago because she was in pain. She was suffering. She was 19 years old. She had some kind of neurological issue, and she couldn't walk. She could barely drag herself. I mean, it was really sad. It was horrible, and we had to do something to put her out of her misery. And so you have to have the capacity to do that as a homesteader. You have to identify and make decisions that require a great deal of empathy. All right, I think I've stayed on that subject long enough. All right. Number 4, perseverance. So, like I said in the beginning with patience, perseverance is a lot like that, except that being patient and persevering are a little bit different. Perseverance to me means that you overcome obstacles. So patience to get through them and perseverance to actually move yourself forward. So like I was saying about plans and everything, and no matter how prepared you are, something is going to happen to disrupt your plans. You have to have the perseverance to move forward and change your plans, change your mind. You can't be stuck in one decision. You have to be able to move and go with the flow, because on a farm, something happens every day, be it the weather or an animal gets sick or I don't know, all kinds of things happen. Or a neighbor or a friend might need help, and it might interfere with something that you had planned to do that day, but That's okay. You can get back to it the next day. You just have to keep on moving, go forward. So perseverance is a big deal. You have to push through things. You have to push through the heat. It's been 90s, and I get up every morning really early and get work done, and then have a siesta in the afternoon and do more work online, or write my blog and blog posts, and check Facebook, and there are things that need to be done inside as well as outside if you're a homesteader who is on social media and helping other people along. So I don't just have this outlet. YouTube isn't the only thing I do. I have blogs, and I have YouTube pages and Instagram, and it all takes time to manage, and it's okay. I enjoy it. I love it. But I also have a homestead that needs a lot of attention and work, and at this time of the year, there's just so much going on. So perseverance, homesteading, it's not for the weak, it's not for the lazy. You have to be able to believe that you can do things in order to get them done, and that's all a big part of perseverance. So number 5 is self-forgiveness.